Good morning, this is Kris Shoemaker, also known as Yehudah ben Shomeyr, and you're listening to Coffee with Kris, the time of the day where we share a cup of coffee and share a bit of the Word of God. Thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday morning for a hot cup of coffee and a hot cup of the Word of God. Yitro is our Torah portion for this week, and our passage for today is Exodus chapter 19, verses 7 through 19, but I want to take you to verse 16, which says, "In the morning, on the third day." So this was in preparation for the children of Israel to hear God, to receive God's laws, to receive God's instructions. And God was coming. God was pulling out all the stops, coming with a great light and sound show, all the pyrotechnics and bells and whistles and trumpets. In the morning on the third day, there was thundering and lightning. Well, I know why the translators mostly translate this thunderings and lightning, because thunder and lightning go together. But the odd thing about the Hebrew is the word thundering or thunder is the same word used for voice, and it's in the plural. So this could really read, in the morning on the third day, there were voices and lightning, a thick cloud on the mountain, and a blast of an exceedingly loud shofar. By the way, this was a shofar that no human blew. Nobody saw the shofar. They're like, hey, who's blowing the shofar? Who's blowing the ram's horn? Nobody. It was the sound of a ram's horn from heaven, a divine, holy shofar from heaven that God himself or one of the angels were blowing. And it said after they heard this, and all the people in the camp trembled. So if we read verse 16 to understand thunderings as the word voices, so God was speaking to the children of Israel, but not only the children of Israel. Because if it was the children of Israel, it would only say thunder, singular. It would say voice, singular. But it says thundering or thunders, voices, plural. So if it was only the children of Israel he was speaking to, God would only have to use one language. That's Hebrew, Ivrit. But there was a mixed multitude. At least one representative from all the 70 root nations of the world that was traveling with Israel, that went out of Egypt in the Exodus with Israel. And so God was speaking to them too, because he was speaking to them in their own language, and language that they understand. Now, there's a lot of people who are bilingual, but they have a mother tongue. You know, here in New Brunswick, people speak English or French. You know, English is my mother tongue. You know, I understand a little bit of French, but I can't speak it very well. I can pick out a few words when I'm reading, but it's hard for me to understand. But let's say that I learn French as a second language. It's still not going to be my mother tongue. There's still going to be oddities and intricacies of the language and idioms and sayings that I don't fully grasp or understand because it doesn't speak to me, because it's not my mother tongue. It's not my heart language. So that's why it's very important for Bible translators to translate the Bible in every dialect on earth. It's not just good enough to, let's say, translate it into Spanish. There may be 10 different dialects or offshoots of Spanish. You know, just like the French here. You know, the people here in New Brunswick don't speak Parisian French. It is a French-Canadian French. It is a French that is unique to them because they can hear Parisian French, and there's things in that language that they're like, wait, what do you, I don't get it. I've never heard that word. I don't understand it. They can't understand certain aspects of Parisian French. So the Bible needs to be translated in French-Canadian so that it would be in their heart language, in a mother tongue that they understand, not one that they have to translate themselves or figure out themselves or wade through all the idioms and nuances of a language that they know, but they don't fully comprehend or fully understand. So when God was giving the law to Israel, he was also giving the same law equally to the mixed multitude. And they heard it in a language that they fully comprehended and understood. So I encourage you to support Bible translators. One of the biggest out there is Wycliffe Bible Translators. And even if it's a dialect that's only got maybe 100 people and it's a dying language, they're going to strive to translate the Word of God into their heart language, knowing that that's so important in reaching that particular people group. You know, they may understand Arabic, but they may be a dialect of Arabic from a small community that's different from Arabic itself. They need to translate it into that dialect. And so God genuinely cares about his word and about people accurately and appropriately understanding his word in their own language. That's why if you're going to read the Bible, read it in a language you understand. You may not get King James English. That's okay. Get New King James or get an NIV or get, get the Christian Standard Bible. Get a language that you understand, a Bible that you will read. I would encourage you to kind of stay away from paraphrases because you kind of lose some things there. Get it in a good translation. And when people pray, I pray certain prayers in Hebrew because I think it's beautiful and because I understand it. But, don't expect people to pray in Latin or to pray in Hebrew or to pray in Greek if they don't understand it. What's the point? Paul even goes on to say, I would rather speak, a few words that people understand than rattle off in a language that nobody understands because it doesn't edify anybody. So God really doesn't care, if you call him, Lord in your language, like merci perdu, thank you, dear Lord. That's French. And in English, I would just say, thank you, dear Lord. God knows who you're addressing when you address him in your native tongue. You don't have to, there's people out there that are sacred namers that say, oh, you can only use this particular word said this particular way, or God's not going to hear you, God's not going to understand you. That's just a bunch of bull. It's like a name in a different language. Like in English, it's Michael. In French, it's Michel. In Russian, it's Mikhail. They're all the same name, but they're said differently in different languages. And, people are going to understand it in their language. Okay, I've beat this horse enough. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Go out there and have a great day. Shalom, and God bless.